Welcome to Airborne, live from AirVenture in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. I'm Ashley Hale. Today at Oshkosh, Acting Administrator Michael Huerta makes his first Meet the Administrator appearance at AirVenture. Eclipse Aerospace announces a donation to the Veterans Airlift Command, and Women in Aviation International continues with their educational efforts. We'll have the fourth of Jim Campbell's five-part interview with EAA President and CEO Ron Hightower, and hear from Rick Peri from AEA. For Thursday, July 26th, it's Airborne live on Aero-TV. Acting FAA Administrator Michael Huerta made his first trip to Oshkosh in the agency's top job. And while the annual Meet the Administrator session was fairly well received by those who attended, it didn't seem to be high on the priority list of many at Whitman Field. Forum Pavillion 7 was only about a third full for the late morning session. Huerta said there have been many safety improvements over the past 2 years, with fatal accidents down in nearly every category for general aviation. He also returned to the familiar theme of NextGen and what it will mean for GA pilots. During the time set aside for questions, the administrator was asked about a number of issues, some of which he deferred to staff members that traveled with him to Wisconsin. Among those was a question from a part-time flight instructor who asked about tests that still cover calculations with an E6B and use of NDBs for navigation. The question was ultimately answered by Flight Standard Service Director John Allen.
Good afternoon. Thank you for being here. I'm Kay Greenfield, and I'm a part-time flight instructor. And I get a number of students that come to me that want to fly in technically advanced aircraft, or they want to transition to TAA. And I think the FAA does a wonderful job with all the educational materials and the resources. However, the FAA written exams don't necessarily reflect that. So my question to you is, when do you expect to update the FAA test questions so that us teachers can help our students focus on today's technology as opposed to NDBs and E6Bs and, questions from decades ago?
Yeah. We just concluded an ARC to address that very fact. And we know that these tests have become outdated, have not been kept up, and actually sometimes I think are counterproductive to bringing on better pilots and really testing their capabilities in new technologies and in airmanship, that magic word I haven't seen a lot. And so we've just concluded an ARC, and we've had some really good people who are innovators and thinking about moving that bar and talking to the best folks we know about in the public to infuse a more common sense and a more in-tune testing strategy and tests that will be out there. So we're going to be integrating that, and we don't have to do rulemaking for that as well, so that won't hold that up. And so you'll be seeing new testing and new methodologies of testing coming out this year.
Huerta still has not been confirmed by the U.S. Senate. There is a possibility, however, that the full Senate vote will come before Congress leaves for its August recess. Elsewhere around the airport today, a crowd gathered at the Eclipse display for a presentation of a donated E-500 jet to the Veterans Airlift Command. Presiding over the ceremony was retired Air Force General Richard Myers, former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. The jet was donated by Helen and Walt Ilsley of San Rafael, California, who provided the funds to purchase the jet. Eclipse Aerospace also contributed over $500,000 in upgrades to make this one of the best Eclipses flying. The Veterans Airlift Command provides free air transportation to wounded veterans and their families for medical and other compassionate purposes through a national network of volunteer aircraft owners and pilots. And Women in Aviation International held a news conference this morning to announce a reprise of the Take Your Daughter to the Conference Day at their annual convention being held in Nashville, Tennessee next March. This program is designed to introduce girls and young women to aviation. WAI President Dr. Peggy Chabrian also signed a Memorandum of Understanding with Learning for Life, stating the organizations will work together to promote aviation careers among youth from kindergarten through high school. The memorandum was signed for Learning for Life by that organization's executive director, Dr. Diane Thornton. When we come back, ANN's editor-in-chief, Jim Campbell, continues his talk with EAA President and CEO, Rod Hightower. You're watching Airborne live on Aero-TV.
The 1X kits continue the Sonics tradition of providing the best performance per dollar kits, period.
The Evolution Flight Display System from Aspen Avionics delivers unique reliability and safety features to GA pilots and is truly the most flexible and affordable EFIS available. Aspen Avionics, a new way to look at avionics.
This Aero-TV segment is sponsored by 4Flight, makers of intelligent apps for pilots. Best-in-class design and our fanatical pilot support make 4Flight Mobile aviation's most popular app.
You might be solo, but not alone when you choose to fly with Bendix King. Today, the freedom of flight can become clouded by complex technology. At Bendix King, we're working to make the pilot's job easier by developing products around safe, simple, and confident operations. Visit us at EAA AirVenture Oshkosh Hangar B, booth 2162, to see what's new in our product line, or visit us at bendixking.com. Flightline presents the Oracle Engine Monitoring System, STC primary for twin-engine aircraft and soon to be joined by turbine and rotorcraft options. Oracle provides unparalleled reliability and functionality. Oracle, the best co-pilot you'll ever have. Aero-TV's live coverage of AirVenture 2012 is brought to you in part by WingX and by Bendix King by Honeywell. When you fly with Bendix King, you're never alone.
As a plug-and-play replacement for existing 430s, the IFD 440 FMS GPS Navcom features a hybrid touchscreen control which makes it much easier to access the information you want when you want it. Now you have a choice, and the choice is easy. Avidyne.
This is Airborne live on Aero-TV. I'm Ashley Hale. Earlier this week, ANN's editor-in-chief, Jim Campbell, had an opportunity to sit down one-on-one with EAA President Rod Hightower for a look at the state of the organization. During that conversation, we asked Mr. Hightower about automotive fuel and the future of LSAs.
Two more shorts on the grape list here. One that was sent in this morning in response to last night's barnstorming piece was there's a fellow who has requested a number of times that MoGas be available during AirVenture. Apparently there's even a company that's offered to send a truck out here and let you run it or whatever the case may be. But with the fact that, I mean, let's face it, EA did outstanding work on MoGas, has done it for decades. Why isn't there MoGas at AirVenture?
Well, you're on one of my personal pet issues here. And I'm going to tell you right now, for the life of me, I don't understand why there's not MoGas here. Okay, now I'm going to say that. Now I'm going to tell you that I do understand why there's not MoGas here. Let's break things apart. What we can do with infrastructure here that's airport-based and how we service the members and the customers and the aviators that bring their airplanes here. For me, it's a real simple solution. Why don't we fill up a truck with MoGas and have it circulate on the field? I haven't been approached by anybody. I'm unaware that someone has offered to help us do that, but I know that our infrastructure on the field does not support that. So it's a field infrastructure issue at Whitman Regional Airport. To me, it doesn't strike me as an insolvable problem. So how about if I put that on my personal pet peeve list and make that my #1 item for improvement for next year's AirVenture?
Sounds like a plan. Years ago, there were sport planes. Sport pilot came along, LSA. This was going to be manna from heaven. This was going to be the new entry level to aviation. Of course, 1, the economy, 2, reality, 3, the complexities of dealing with the FAA, even with ASTM as a go-between. There is great concern, even fear, among LSA that the import of what they were trying to do with ASTM is going to be swept aside by increasing reliance on the FAA's having to bless everything that happens from here on out. How are we going to fix that?
But here's what I would say about the opportunity that's there. We need to split some things out into regulatory, economic, and now maybe how the world works or how markets work. So regulatory. Gosh, I've got some news for everybody if they haven't figured it out already. The regulatory environment is getting more intense, not less intense. We spend more of our work and more of our time and our effort making sure that we manage that regulatory expectations to the best outcome possible for us in aviation. Let's talk about economics and marketplaces. If you've got 70-plus manufacturers or more globally of light sport aircraft, which is in fact the real number, you've got a lot of participants in a relatively small and growing market space, faced at the same time with one of the worst economic conditions that the planet has seen. That is not going to lend itself to thriving companies in that space. It's just not gonna. What I think could happen is I think that there are some amazing designs out there with some terrific innovation, smart people, smart companies. Those guys, they're going to win the race. They're going to rise to the top. They will likely succeed if they can endure the economic challenges that they're facing right now. And there will probably be a shakeout. There will probably be failures in that industry. We don't want to see it. We hope that it doesn't happen, but it probably will. And here's the bad news and the good news. The bad news is it's going to affect a lot of people when that shakeout takes place. The good news is the stronger will thrive. So those that do survive it and endure the next level or the next phase of this particularly new and evolving industry will probably thrive to a higher degree, especially if the global economic conditions give them a little bit of a tailwind instead of a pretty massive headwind.
Is there anything, though, that EAA can do interfacing with the FAA to get them involved from a standpoint of helping people reach safe, proper goals rather than just shutting them down, closing the door, and offering no counterpoint whatsoever?
There's a lot we can do. There's a lot that the industry can do to help itself as well. One of the things that the industry can do is build safe airplanes. Make sure that our manufacturing practices are solid and sound. And by and large, I think they've done a pretty good job and a very credible job of doing that. Make sure that those airplanes are built well and that they're safe to fly. Also, don't forget the pilot implications. Make sure that we have the right kind of transition and the right kind of training for pilots to fly those airplanes as safely as we possibly can. So let's share best practices across the industry and do a good job of that together. But let's also take a look at who the guy is that's pushing the regulatory approach. EAA is going to tell you right now, in the eyes of the regulatory environment, I need to make absolutely certain that we do everything we can do to minimize regulatory burden and minimize the costs associated with regulatory burden and compliance while we improve everything we can do to improve safety. So I think that we sometimes get a little bit hung up in complaining about the regulatory environment, and sometimes we kind of forget that we probably better put a lot of our time and energy into making certain that those airplanes and the pilots that buy those airplanes are safe. I think that's one of the key roles that EA has in the industry. We love the industry. We support it very, very strongly. We want to see it helped. But I think there's a shakeout coming.
Tomorrow, the last of our 5-part series with EAA President Hightower. And in just a moment, Jim Campbell is back for a look at one of the more pressing issues facing the avionics industry with AEA's Rick Peri. You're watching Airborne Live on Aero-TV.
Aero-TV's live coverage of AirVenture 2012 is brought to you in part by Sonics, the sport aircraft reality check, and by Viking Aircraft Engines. Take off with a Viking. Waco Classic Aircraft carries on the proud tradition of the open cockpit biplane, exhilarating to fly, beautiful to behold. With its classic graceful design, the Waco YMF 5D is custom built for each owner. Learn more at www.wacoaircraft.com.
Concorde Platinum Series batteries are available for all aircraft and offer extra cranking power, resulting in less draw on the battery per cycle for longer life. Visit booth 2053 at Oshkosh. Concorde, for the heart of your aircraft. Since the early days of powered flight, pilots have struggled with landing in crosswinds. In fact, crosswinds and wind gusts cause more landing accidents than fog, thunderstorms, and icing combined. That's where the Redbird X-Wind SE comes in. By placing pilots in gusty crosswind conditions for extended periods of time, the X-Wind SE gives instructors all the time they need to teach the pilot the proper techniques for landing in crosswind conditions. For more information on Redbird X-Wind SE and Redbird's entire line of flight training devices, visit www.redbirdflightsimulations.com.
276 and counting. That's the number of lives saved so far by the revolutionary BRS airframe parachute. See and read why BRS can keep you safe at www.brsparachutes.com. Powerful and reliable sport plane engines can be cost-effective. Check out the amazing Viking 110 power plant at www.vikingaircraftengines.com.
Welcome back to Airborne, live on Aero-TV. Earlier today, ANN's Jim Campbell talked with Rick Peri, Vice President of Government and Industry Affairs for the Aircraft Electronics Association, about the issues of certification of avionics shops under revised Part 145 rules.
Well, first of all, let me introduce you to Rick Peri, who has been the right hand at everything avionics, regulatory, and so forth for AEA, and been an uncommonly good source of info on everything that's happening from the Puzzle Palace on down. Rick, as I understand it, we've got kind of a serious issue to discuss today on Aero-TV and Airborne.
Yes, we do. The FAA has a proposal out on repair station regulations that is pretty much going to shut down a bunch of mom and pop shops. The smaller repair stations that simply are not going to be able to step up to the plate. But more importantly, this whole thing is dependent on the FAA's efficiency and be able to issue 4,000 certificates in 60 days.
Okay, the words or the phrases FAA and efficiency in the same sentence don't usually work together too well.
No, they don't. And as anybody that knows, trying to get a field approval through or any kind of work with the local FSDO, you're typically on a 60-day delay on an appointment to get in to talk to somebody. And essentially, this proposal relies on the FAA's efficiency to reissue every repair station certificate before the 24 months expires, because the current 145 regulation simply expires.
Give us the broad overview of what's happening. How do we tell people out in the general aviation, commercial aviation, sport aviation world how pivotal this issue is?
This is the third time we've gone through this. In 1999, 2000, we did a review of this, major rewrite on 145. The public spoke, and the public said no. Well, that wasn't good enough. 6 years later, the FAA proposed it again. We're at it again. One more time, 6 years later, we're doing it all over again. This particular case is extremely concerning because the comment period closes on August 20th. It's when people go back to school. It's when the families are coming back from vacation. And whether it was intentional or not, the ability for this proposal, this ill-conceived proposal, is going to be predicated on people's ability to comment. And that's a real problem. For the heavy shops, there's some nuances in here. There are going to be some real problems. For the small shops, it's going to be debilitating.
We're in an industry that's not always gotten the greatest of shakes from the current administration, although the current administration tells everybody that small business is the backbone of America. What alternatives do we have under these circumstances? What is the best case scenario we can hope for, and how do we make that happen?
Well, you comment. This is rulemaking. While there's no prohibition against an agency continuing to promote and propose something, hoping that the public will go to sleep, there's no prohibition against that. So it's up to us each and every time to make sure that we comment and hold the agency accountable to what the public wants in the management of it. When we look at the transition to this new 145, it basically says the repair station must apply for a new certificate within 24 months or within 60 days before the expiration of the rules. Well, it's not real clear what that total application process is, but if the FAA knows what you're doing, why do you need to reapply? Why can't the FAA just issue the new version, which is what they've done in the last two rewrites? But for this reason, they task the public to do this. So if a small business is, God forbid, being busy, they have to stop what they're doing and reapply to get a repair station certificate. Part of that reapplication process is listing every article the repair station works on. Every aircraft, every part, every component by make and model that they are capable of performing. Class ratings go away. Now, it's a shell game, and it's really kind of a classic little shell game. The FAA says, we don't mandate capabilities lists, and they don't. They do mandate capabilities, and those are what's going to go. So you take a large shop that is a class-rated facility, works on a lot of equipment, that goes away. And basically, they're all going to be limited. They're all going to have listed capabilities and a 24-month review to this, so that if you're a component shop working on 1,000 items, you have to revalidate 1,000 items every 2 years. If anybody needs information on this, they can go to our website, aea.net, and they're welcome to contact me directly on this. This is an extremely important issue, and I encourage everybody who owns a repair station to make sure that they follow this one closely, because basically the FAA has put a closing date in this proposal, and if you do nothing, your repair station will close 24 months after this becomes final.
When we come back, highlights of Wednesday's air show at Whitman Regional Airport. I'm Ashley Hale, and you're watching Airborne live on Aero-TV.
Aero-TV's live coverage of AirVenture 2012 is brought to you in part by BRS Aviation, defining aviation safety, and by Waco Aircraft, reviving the golden age of aviation. 276 and counting. That's the number of lives saved so far by the revolutionary BRS airframe parachute. See and read why BRS can keep you safe at www.brsparachutes.com.
Avidyne is the brand of choice for pilots who want innovative, easy-to-use avionics, and the new IFD 540 and 440 FMS GPS navcoms set a new standard for ease of use and simplicity. As plug-and-play replacements for legacy 530 and 430 series navigators, the hybrid touch user interface of the IFD 540 and IFD 440 makes it much easier to access the information you want while reducing head-down time, and making flying more enjoyable. Now you have a choice, and the choice is easy. Avidyne.
Redbird is quickly becoming the industry standard for flight training. Since Redbird introduced its revolutionary FMX in 2007, colleges, universities, and flight training operations around the world have integrated Redbird products into their curriculum. It's time to discover what Redbird can do for you. Join the migration.
Aspen's trailblazing Evolution 2000 and 2500 systems offer an exclusive total backup capability that steam gauges and competing blasts just can't match. With full PFD capability built into the MFD and dual redundant backup batteries, Aspen's Evolution system offers the only glass panel that can effectively eliminate heavy, unreliable steam instruments. Aspen Avionics, a new way to look at avionics. The Oracle Engine Monitoring System offers primary replacement for all engine instrumentation. Certified for most piston GA aircraft, the Oracle will soon be certified for fixed-wing turbine and rotorcraft aircraft. Oracle, the best co-pilot you'll ever have.
Sonex Aircraft, the best performance for dollar, period.
This is Aero-TV's live coverage of AirVenture in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Thanks for joining us. Every day the weather permits during AirVenture, there's a world-class air show at Whitman Regional Airport. Here are just a few of the highlights of Wednesday's show. No matter how many times you see it, it just doesn't get old. And that's just some of what was happening at AirVenture today. Tomorrow, the House Aviation Subcommittee will hold a town hall style meeting, and Jim Campbell talks with Rod Hightower about the future of the EAA. Of course, there's lots more at aero-news.net, so don't forget to check out the site. I'm Ashley Hale, and we'll see you tomorrow night on Airborne, live from AirVenture in Oshkosh. Thanks for watching.
Aero-TV's live coverage of AirVenture 2012 is brought to you in part by the following sponsors.
The 1X kits continue the Sonex tradition of providing the best performance per dollar kits, period.
Bright, light, and affordable. Sandia Aerospace presents the STX-165 Mode AC Transponder. Check it out at www.sandia.aero. Ultra Electronics Flightline Systems presents the Oracle, offering intelligent power management for single and twin piston engine aircraft, and soon to be available in fixed-wing turbine and rotorcraft versions. Visit www.ultra-oracle.com for more information.
This Aero-TV segment is sponsored by ForeFlight, makers of intelligent apps for pilots. Best-in-class design and our fanatical pilot support make ForeFlight Mobile aviation's most popular app.
Powerful and reliable sport plane engines can be cost-effective. Check out the amazing Viking 110 power plant at www.vikingaircraftengines.com.
As a plug-and-play replacement for existing 430s, the IFD 440 FMS GPS Navcom features a hybrid touchscreen control which makes it much easier to access the information you want when you want it. Now you have a choice, and the choice is easy. Aviation.
276 and counting. That's the number of lives saved so far by the revolutionary BRS airframe parachute. See and read why BRS can keep you safe at www.brsparachutes.com. Waco Classic Aircraft now offers the Great Lakes 2T1A2. Inspired by the classic YMF-5D, it's smaller but with 180 horsepower, simpler avionics, and fully aerobatic. Waco lets you fly simply for the fun of it. www.wacoaircraft.com. Aspen offers the most flexible and affordable certified synthetic vision available. Evolution Synthetic Vision is now here. Customizable display layouts enhance the data you need for each phase of flight. Built-in terrain warning system combines terrain and flight path marker coloring, caution and warning text, and an audio warning signal to alert you when terrain or obstacle hazards conflict with your flight path. Aspen Avionics, a new way to look at avionics. Are you ready for the next generation of light sport airplanes? Check out the all-new Bristol. Fun, fast, and easy to fly. Learn more at www.bristol.com.
Redbird Flight Simulations is dedicated to revolutionizing flight training by designing, manufacturing, and delivering affordable and innovative flight training technologies. Each Redbird device is designed to enhance the training experience for pilots of all levels, from student to ATP. Redbird is quickly becoming the industry standard for flight training. Since Redbird introduced its revolutionary FMX in 2007, colleges, universities, and flight training operations around the world have integrated Redbird products into their curriculum. It's time to discover what Redbird can do for you. Join the migration. Concorde Platinum Series batteries are available for all aircraft and offer extra cranking power, resulting in less draw on the battery per cycle for longer life. Visit booth 2053 at Oshkosh. Concorde, for the heart of your aircraft.
You might be solo, but not alone when you choose to fly with Bendix King. Today, the freedom of flight can become clouded by complex technology. At Bendix King, we're working to make the pilot's job easier by developing products around safe, simple, and confident operations. Visit us at EAA AirVenture Oshkosh Hangar B, booth 2162, to see what's new in our product line, or visit us at bendixking.com.